What's good, y'all? It's your boy HB with Final Round. Do a little film study here. We got Tyson Fury versus Jesus Christ. What is this, man? This isn't the Met Gala. You know, take that fucking suit to the fucking. Take it to Hollywood Boulevard. This is like, dude, I don't know why Wilder came in the ring with this bullshit. And the nerve to complain about wearing the suit when he decided to wear it. I mean, anyways. Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. I'm referencing the second fight because I think the third fight will be very similar to this one as opposed to the first one. And I have to heed warning. I'm getting a lot of comments and not really understand what I'm doing with this channel or some of these videos. I know most likely how this third fight will go down. I believe Tyson Fury is going to win convincingly by KO or TKO in a very similar fashion. And, you know, obviously we got the Plant and Alvarez fight coming up, and a lot of people just keep saying, hey, there's nothing to see here. Canelo's going to win by KO, and there's nothing to analyze, and it doesn't matter what game plan that Plant comes up with. You know, it's all irrelevant. I get that, you guys. I even predicted that Canelo's going to knock out Plant by KO, but what you have to understand, this channel is about people who are passionate about the sport, people who want to understand, talk about the strategy, the tactics, the hypothetical scenarios that can play out. I obviously had more intentions to make these videos for competitors within the sport to learn, because I don't care who wins or loses. What I'm seeing is a lot deeper than what the casual fan will see. There's a lot of strategy at play here, and there's a lot of things I can learn from these fights. I don't care who wins or loses. There's things I can learn to do and not to do. And if you're just a casual fan and you know who's gonna win, and you're not really interested into some of the deeper aspects of the sport or the sweet science, then you know you're wasting your time watching these videos. You know, because at the end of the day, you know, I'm not just a fan. I'm a competitor. I'm a trainer. I can learn stuff from these videos and teach them to the people I train. I can learn stuff for myself when I'm competing. I can pass on information to my peers in boxing. And I also have a channel to where I can create a community to where we all can talk about the game plans and the strategies and the hypotheticals for people who are passionate about the sport. And, you know, this is what it's for. But if you're just going to look at the fights for face value, like, oh, I know who's going to win, I get it. But don't waste your time watching this. And I'm not trying to be condescending. I'm just saying this is for people who are very passionate about the sport. And regardless of what you're trying to learn this information for, or maybe you're not trying to necessarily learn, but just express your opinion, this is what it's for. And it's not really going to be for a casual fan who just watches to see a KO or just to see a result. But that being said, Tyson Fury is brilliant in this performance. It's amazing how, you know, he's predominantly a back-footed fighter throughout his career, or at least the recent fights he's had. And then he goes on to being lead foot heavy, and he puts pressure and bullies Deontay Wilder around the ring. I mean, that's what a generational fighter is capable of doing. They're style benders. I like Israel Adesanya's nickname. I love that nickname. Style bender. Style bender. Generational fighters are style benders. You know, they can fight outside of one style. They can change up their looks. They're not one-dimensional. You can be a great fighter being one-dimensional, but to me, pound for pound, great fighters tend to have the ability to shift what they can do and be effective. And for him to go and be a pressure fighter and execute this game plan against a guy who was, you know, intimidating the whole division is nuts. It's crazy. But let's check it out. And Fury, one thing you got to take note of immediately, he's going to try to dominate the center of the ring. You know, I mean, he makes a statement right there by running out to the center of the ring. Okay, nice parry by Tyson Fury. Deontay Wilder tries to jab him to the body, and Fury parries it. Nice. And look at the feint. Look at the feints by Tyson Fury. Very nice. He's cutting off the ring very well, being very patient, not getting out of his stance. How many heavyweights do you see feint like Tyson Fury and shoot jabs to the body? Brilliant. There's lots of middleweights that don't even do that. Guys in lighter weight classes that aren't disciplined in those subtle little areas. And the purpose of those feints are to throw Deontay Wilder off, to disrupt his timing, to see how he's going to react to potential attacks. And it gives Tyson Fury the ability to analyze what he can do later on in the fight, and to keep Wilder guessing when he's going to come in and attack. Wilder gets a little aggressive there. He doesn't like it. He's very uncomfortable. So Wilder gets a little aggressive right there. And I think he clips Fury with a right hand, and that's something I'm going to talk about at the end of the round. But, you know, the reason why Wilder's getting a little desperate there when he was throwing that 1-2 is because he doesn't like the fact that Fury is putting all this pressure on him. He's not used to this. He has to fight off the back foot. He's being forced to the corner and the ropes, and he doesn't really know how to handle this situation. And if you're not used to fighting off your back foot, it's a very exhausting predicament to be in. And this is the problem with Deontay Wilder when you don't have fundamentals or technique. Now, I like some of the things he started to do in the round early. You know, he was throwing his jab up and down stairs, but, you know, the fundamentals and technique aren't there. You know, the timing's not there. The understanding of positioning is not there for him to land these things. It's a nice idea, but if you don't really have the fundamentals down, you can't really land these punches or utilize them. And Fury being very patient, still feigning, which is smart. You know, you got to respect Wilder's power. And he's going to wait to water him down a little bit. Nice feint by Fury. And, you know, one thing to take note of also, Deontay Wilder does not know how to reposition himself to the center ring. He doesn't know how to get his back out of the corner or the ropes. Nice pawing by Tyson Fury, disrupting the lead hand of Deontay Wilder. Sloppy technique by Wilder. I like that cross to the body by Wilder. That's something he should use. But Fury gets pissed off. He's trying to get that punch back. Let's see if Fury throws a... Oh, good jab by Fury. Good stiff jab. You need that in your arsenal if you're going to put pressure on an opponent. You can't be throwing, you know, little flicker jabs out there. You have to have a good stiff jab. You know, i.e. think about Triple G putting pressure. You know, he has a good, stiff, long jab. But anyways, that sounded so gay. But anyways, one huge adjustment that Fury made from the first fight to the second fight is instead of ducking under Wilder's right hand, he's pulling back, fencing with his hands, and kind of rolling with the right hand. And he's able to do that in the second fight because he's dominating the center of the ring, which gives him lots of real estate to work with and the ability to kind of jump out of range and pull away from that right hand and roll with it and fence as he's doing it. But in the first fight, he was fighting off his back foot. He would get back dip up into a corner in the ropes, no real estate behind him. So essentially he was lowering his level and he couldn't go anywhere. He was sitting target. And being the bigger guy, he was also putting himself in a bad position because he was lowering himself to Deontay's level, essentially letting Deontay Wilder come straight down the pipe and land that 1-2. And he got clipped a few times in that fight and got knocked down. So great adjustment in the second fight to kind of pull away from that right hand by just jumping out of range instead of just sitting and lowering your level and trying to duck under the right hand. Not that you can't utilize that at times in this fight, but you don't want to be constantly doing that. Good jab to the body by Wilder. Fury trying to find distance. And notice that Wilder doesn't have all these different subtle techniques to kind of find where he's at in the ring in terms of positioning. If you don't establish your jab, you might as well put a blindfold on and be in the ring. You know, you're fighting blind. And, you know, once again, Fury gets clipped with the right hand, but he pulls back out of range and he rolls with it. Nice. Taking the power out of that right hand. Let's see. Wilder is getting his back to the ropes, so he tries to clinch. Let's see what Fury does. Putting a little bit more pressure, still being patient, respecting his power. And Wilder, every time he gets his back to the ropes, he either kind of gets desperate and he throws these punches that miss, which is sapping his energy, or he kind of just slowly pivots his way out. And I hate his stance. He always looks off balance. His center of gravity is just wrong. And once again, Wilder kind of tries to pivot out. He just tries to get respect by throwing these punches that he doesn't necessarily land. And beautiful dirty boxing by Fury. Notice how he puts Wilder in a headlock, making Wilder have to carry all those fucking burgers and beers he's been eating all fucking day. Eating and drinking all day. Beautiful. Furthermore, sapping Deontay Wilder's energy. Wilder didn't understand why he was so tired and why his legs were giving out on him in this fight. But what he doesn't understand, this boxing strategy by Fury is essentially just draining him. Fury's cutting off the ring. He's jabbing him down to the body. He's putting mental pressure on him, making him have to think methodically, which result... Ooh, nice right hand by Fury. Gets Wilder's back to the rope and exposes his center line and hits him with the right hand. That's the thing. What Wilder didn't understand is that this pressure fighting pretty much is taking him to deep waters and pretty much putting him in a position to drown. And Fury constantly throwing his body weight on Wilder at the end of the round, does it right there, basically sending Wilder back to the corner with all that fucking body weight he just had to hold. Once again, Fury rolls with the right hand, pulls back, nice. Ducks under that one, that's okay. You can duck under it, just you don't want to do it consistently like he did in the first fight. And what Wilder didn't understand about, his legs giving out on him, it wasn't the suit. It was the strategy being implemented against him in the ring. He's not used to fighting off the back foot. That's exhausting. Fury's cutting off the ring. He's putting mental pressure. He's attacking you to the body with the jab. He's feinting you, constantly keeping you guessing and stressing you out. He's putting all his body weight on you when you get into clinch. He's making you miss punches every time you throw them. All that shit is going to sap your energy exponentially. And he's going to continue to do more little things to wear him down. Nice jab by Fury. Notice how Fury changes his head slot every time he shoots that jab to be defensively responsible. And notice how Fury's kind of changing up the tempo. A little bit more bouncy here. He'll settle down later on, but it changes up the tempo and timing. Beautiful. Fury doubles up on the jab and lands the right hand. And another thing that I noticed that Wilder said after the fight was like, he did some fucking gypsy craft on me or some bullshit like that, making all the excuses he was making. Like, I couldn't throw my right hand. I don't know why I couldn't throw my right hand, but it just... I didn't want to throw it. Well, that's called positioning. That's what happens when you understand the sweet science. Fury understood the game of positioning. And because of that, Wilder was never in a position to throw his right hand. And the times he did, he completely missed. And that's what happens when you face a guy who knows what he's doing in there. He's not gonna be there to be hit. And it's going to put you in a position to where it's like, I want to throw punches, but I can't. I feel like it's not there. And it feels like that because it's not. Those punches aren't available to you. And if you do decide to let your hands go anyway, you're just wasting energy or you're putting yourself in a position to get countered. Nice jabs by Fury. You can make all the excuses for Wilder. He was getting outboxed. He's getting outclassed here. I don't want to hear about spiked drinks and fixed gloves. There was nothing he could have done. It doesn't matter if Fury came in with 18-ounce gloves and Wilder had headgear. He was getting fucked up, point blank, period. And I like how Fury controlled Deontay's head with the lead hand. You know, sometimes instead of just landing your jab and pulling your punch back, you can control your opponent, hold them in position, and then come down over top. Controlling your opponent is very important. And beautiful lead left hook, right hand by Fury. He backs Deontay Wilder to the ropes, corrals him with the left hook, and leads his head into a right hand. And Wilder was in a terrible position because all he knows how to do when he gets his back in the ropes is just kind of pivot out or clinch. And that right there might as well be a knockdown as well. I'm fully aware it's not a knockdown of a punch, but what I'm trying to say is when you get thrown to the canvas like that and you already been knocked down and you're exhausted, it takes a lot of energy to take that 220 or 30 pound frame up off the ground and pick yourself back up. It takes a lot of energy, so it might as well have been a knockdown. Once again, a wily veteran move by Fury, understanding he's the bigger guy, he needs to be the bully, and he tosses Wilder to the ground. Making, you know, understanding that, like, hey, he's gonna have to work himself back up to his feet. Boom. Beautiful left hook, right hand by Fury. Backed him into the ropes. Corralled him into that right hand. Bang. And Fury just didn't position himself correctly. And beautiful timing by Fury as Wilder was kind of trying to extend his jab, that weak jab he threw out. And Fury just came right over the top. And, you know, Mark Breland did the right thing. I don't care what Wilder says. He should have had an extra paycheck thrown his way. This is where guys die or get permanent brain damage, when they're absolutely exhausted and they're taking constant punishment. You know, it's actually better to just get knocked the fuck out and the fight's over with and done, as opposed to being absolutely exhausted and repetitively getting hit in the head. That's when guys really get fucked up. So, you know, Mark Breland understood this dude still has a career, still has a family, and he's not going to win this fight. He has nothing in his arsenal to win this fight. You know, let's live the fight another day. You know, but Wilder wanted to make excuses, you know, in all sorts of ways. And, you know, I give him props. He fought. He tried to go out on his shield. He stayed in the fight as long as possible. And beautiful veteran move by Fury. Look at him grinning in the as he goes back to the corner. Trips up Deontay Wilder. Once again, makes him get up, sapping his energy. Very wily veteran move. Nice hooks to the body by Fury. That hurt Wilder very badly. Look at his guard dropping. Look at Wilder's guard dropping. Nice right hook to the body. Beautiful. You know, little dirty boxing techniques, but, you know, this is what great fighters do. You know, you don't use these boxing techniques repetitively, or you don't use them in like the most malicious manner, but you got to have stuff like that. You know, the greats have that. Mayweather does a little dirty boxing. Bernard Hopkins was a master of it. Andre Ward has a little bit of dirty boxing in his arsenal. At the end of the day, it's a fucking fight, you guys. You know, don't be a pussy. You know, at the end of the day, yes, it's a sport. It's boxing, has rules, but it's a fucking fight. And, you know, you got to find little creative ways to gain advantages. Nice Fitzsimmons switch by Tyson Fury. He misses some punches. So what he does is he switches from orthodox to southpaw as he's closing the distance, and then smothers Deontay Wilder's attack and throws his body weight on him. Look how he's wrestling with Deontay Wilder, throwing all his body weight on him, wearing him down more and more. And it's literally like watching somebody drown. That's what Deontay Wilder looks like, especially when he throws those flailing punches and he's trying to hold on for dear life and clinch. It looks like he's drowning, because he is. He's drowning, and he's having to carry a 300-pound man on top of him. And he's out on his feet, you guys. This fight was over. There was nothing that was going to happen to for Wilder to win this fight. Not even a lucky punch. Just nothing. Once you lose your gas, you're done. You're done. And just completely being dominated here. Nice feint by Fury. Still feinting. Look at him. Doesn't even really need to feint. And look at Wilder. It just looks like he's drowning. And throwing sloppy punches, sloppy technique. And Fury basically has him where he's wanted. He's just toying with his food right now. It's just a matter of when he wants to finish the fight. The great Sugar Hill. Brilliant game plan. Getting this guy ready and conditioned to fight this way. And look at that. Look how Fury does a little shift right there, takes his rear leg to trip up the lead leg of Wilder. You know, and even grins as he goes back to the corner. He knows that's going to expend more energy on Deontay Wilder. And it's also a nice little defensive move. It keeps your opponent off balance by tripping him. And it kind of puts you in a defensively responsible position. You know, because you may expose yourself for a brief second, but as you're going on your way out, you trip him up, make him lose his balance, and now you're good to go. And look at Fury trapping Wilder on the corner and the ropes and just punishing him. Making Wilder pay in every aspect of this fight. If he wants to clinch, he's got to carry Tyson Fury's weight. You know, if he wants to go to a corner, he's got to deal with the pressure and combinations. If he wants to fight on the inside, look at it, he fucking bullies Fury or Wilder, just tosses him around like a rag doll and throws him into a right hand. I mean, it's just every aspect of this fight, Fury is dominating. This is not just pure aggression. This is tactical, precise aggression. This is somebody who's outboxing another man completely. And it's just wherever Fury takes the fight, and he takes it where he wants to, he's dictating it. And he's making Wilder pay for everything he does. And Wilder, this fight should be over by now. Look at this, boom. Freaking left hook to the body. Wasn't even like a kidney or liver shot. It was just, you know, Wilder being out on his feet, being absolutely exhausted, and beautiful combo by fucking Tyson Fury. He pulls another Fitzsimmons shift, shifts to the southpaw stance, turns his left hand into a power hand, and throws the hook and knocks Deontay Wilder over. And as he's doing it, he's carrying lots of momentum. And, you know, we have Bambi legs here. You know, this fight was over, you guys. You know, I know you got some hardcore fucking Deontay Wilder fans out here that believe in all these conspiracies. This guy got boxed. Show me something he's done in this fight to give himself an advantage, a competitive advantage. Show me anything he was developing strategically. And here's another thing to note. I mean, this fight is where it is. There's not much to analyze at this point. It's over. So I'm going to kind of go off into some of my opinions. Like, there's no substance in what Deontay Wilder's doing. He was never setting anything up. He's not even playing checkers. You know, he's not even playing checkers, you guys. Tyson Fury's playing chess. And there's nothing that Deontay Wilder is doing to set anything up. And this is what happens when you don't, when you're, you know, you don't have much to your game. You know, Deontay Wilder's a very blessed athlete, a blessed boxer. He has the touch of death, right? And he's relied upon that his whole career. He's never had to develop, you know, the fundamentals, the techniques or game plans or strategies, because he's been given the God, you know, the touch of death by God. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's been able to bully most of his opponents, but he finally ran into a generational fighter, you know, in Tyson Fury, who's very dynamic and has a very diverse game. You know, think of it like this. Think about countries and their militaries, right? Well, think of Tyson Fury as a country, right? And think about the military he has. Tyson Fury has an army. He has a navy. He has an air force. He has Marines. He can attack you from the air. He can attack you from the water. You know, he can attack you from the ground in various ways. Deontay Wilder just has an army. or just as an Air Force, whichever one you want to use for the metaphor, or analogy. He just has an Air Force, and that Air Force has a nuke. Beautiful combinations. And look at that left hook to the body. That Air Force just has a nuke. That's all Deontay Wilder has. And don't get me wrong, that's a very powerful weapon to have in your military. But when you go up against the military that has all these different branches, I can attack you in so many different ways. I can respond in so many different ways. I can make adjustments in different ways to take your best weapon away from you. And now I leave you with nothing. And that's what Tyson Fury did in this fight. You know, he has so many ways to fucking skin the attack, or skin the cat and attack you. You know, and he took away Deontay Wilder's best weapon, and now Deontay Wilder's left with what? Absolutely nothing. And he never developed his IQ in the ring or his fundamentals and technique in ways to where he could attack you in variety. And that's why even if Deontay Wilder does find a way to make the proper adjustments for the second fight, I still don't know if it will be enough. Because Tyson Fury, once again, he has so many different branches to his military and ways he can attack you. So even if Deontay Wilder does develop a little bit more for this third fight, he still only has an Air Force and an Army, as compared to Tyson Fury, who has all the branches of the military. And even if Deontay Wilder executes a new game plan, you're crazy to think that Tyson Fury won't have the ability to make another adjustment. And look at this beautiful inside fighting by Tyson Fury. This is what I'm talking about. This guy can do it all. He can fight on the inside, the outside, mid-range. He can do a little dirty boxing. He can fight off the back foot. He can put pressure coming forward. This guy has it all in his military arsenal. And, you know, you got to give Wilder credit. He's going out on his shield as best as he can. And, you know, who knows? Who knows? I'm not saying Wilder doesn't stand a chance. But, and, you know, he may come in there and show that he has a higher IQ than we think. And for the first time, he's going to get the opportunity to show us. I mean, it looks like he's trying to make adjustments in training. He's got a new trainer. He's taking a different approach. But, you know, I don't know if you pick that. This dude's a savage. You don't know. I don't know if you can pick up, you know, some of these things within one camp. You know, it's one thing to hit the mitts and look good and try to implementing all these new things. But you guys, what you have to understand is, you know, it takes time to ingrain that into your muscle memory. That doesn't happen overnight. And at the end of the day, most likely what's going to happen is Wilder's going to revert back to what he knows. You know, but you got to try. You got to try if you're Wilder. You got to try and make an adjustment. And look, here's the good news. This is the first time you're actually going to try to be strategic. You know, you're going to try to develop something more than just a big right hand. And who knows, maybe he's more talented than we all know and smarter than we all know. He could be. And I do think he's totally capable of boxing very well. He has the ability, but it's just too late at this point in time of his career. And it's not like he has a couple of warm-up fights to kind of get used to this new style. He has to make this adjustment against one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world today, which is not very likely. And look at that. He literally has an opportunity to land that right hand, but just terrible technique. And it's almost like he chopped down with it, and he's so tired it really didn't even bother Fury. Fury didn't even make a defensive maneuver towards that right hand. Ducks under that one. You know, Wilder's a tough motherfucker. I'll give him that, man. I mean, he has literally no chance to win this fight, but he's still throwing. And I think this is where the fight ends. And, ooh, brutal. Fucking brutal. Just getting pounded. Yeah, well, you know, Wilder's going to get an opportunity. You know, if I'm in his corner or if I'm Wilder, you want to dumb it down. And I'm not saying that to be condescending towards Wilder. I'm not saying that because he's not a smart guy. I'm just saying you are what you are at this point in your career. You know, don't reinvent the wheel here. You know, if I'm Wilder, I'm going to take a page out of that book when I went up against Ortiz, right? I'm going to be very patient, and I'm going to wait to land my right hand, right? I'm not going to beat this guy. I'm not going to outbox him for 12 rounds tactically. I'm not going to win on the scorecards. My objective is, let's use another metaphor here or analogy. I have this one big weapon. It's my nuke. I need to get it in a carrier, an aircraft carrier. I need to fly it across the ocean and get it behind enemy lines without getting shot down. And then I need to get to my destination and I need to drop that nuke. And that is going to end the war. That's what essentially Deontay Wilder has to do. That's his only shot at winning. He needs to try to get across enemy lines with his one delivery method, his aircraft carrier that carries that big right hand, and he needs to get to his destination just enough to get that plane to where it needs to be before it can get shot down, and he needs to drop that nuke and end the war. In order for him to do that, he's gonna have to develop a little bit of boxing abilities. He's gonna have to utilize some movements. He's going to have to utilize, and the more subtle techniques he can pick up, the better. It'll be very hard for him to be aware, when you're not used to doing that in all of your fights throughout your career. But, if I'm Deontay Wilder, it's going to be a lot of feinting for me and jabbing downstairs to the body and throwing right crosses to the body. And moving around intelligently and understanding positioning. Just enough to move to where you can wait for that perfect opportunity to land that right hand. You have to be very conservative with your punches if you're Deontay Wilder. You don't want to waste them. Because Fury will go in there. He will put pressure. He's going to force you to fight. But you're going to have to understand how to get out of those situations when you get backed into a corner or back to the ropes and extend the fight to where you can look for that opportunity to land that big right hand. Throughout the fight, it's literally going to be like that. He's got to take that aircraft carrier, which is himself, and he's got to avoid all the fire coming at him, all the fucking, missiles coming from the ground, all the fucking gunshots, all the fucking fire coming from enemy aircraft. He's going to have to maneuver his way around all that fucking, all those fucking attacks. And he's going to have to get to that destination to where he can drop that nuclear bomb. And he has to develop some defensive maneuvers and footwork to get there. He's going to have to fly that plane in a very defensive manner to get to where he wants to. And he's going to have a few opportunities to drop that nuclear weapon that he has perfectly. But he's not going to be able to, box for 12 rounds tactically and win on the scorecards. He's gonna drop rounds. That it is what it is. But you just want to be defensive enough to get yourself to that perfect moment to where, boom, you can drop that right hand and end the fight. Or maybe drop him like he did in the first fight multiple times and try to win on the scorecard that way. But, You know, you got to be able to stick and move a little bit. You got to be able to match the body attack of Tyson Fury a little bit to slow him down, you know, because he's going to try to take your legs away from you. He's going to try to wear you down throughout the fight, and you got to be able to deal with that in some sort of way. You know, so if I'm Deontay Wilder, I'm feinting a lot. I'm stressing in training camp, like, hey, don't get caught up in the corner. Every time you get your back to the ropes, maybe you want to smother. You know, maybe you want to feint, work out. Maybe you want to L step. You know, maybe you want to pivot out and jab, but mix it up. Mix it up every time you get to the ropes. Get back to the center of the ring, box a little, do some head movement. You know, you are the smaller guy. You should be more conditioned, well conditioned for this fight. And, you know, jab down to the body. Pot shot your way throughout this fight. Pot shot. You know, throw crosses to the body. Stick and move. And then when the right opportunity comes, you walk your opponent into a big right hand and you say goodnight. But who knows? We got to give Deontay Wilder a shot. I think this is the first time he's really trying to develop some more skills, and he looks good in training. It looks like he's moving his head, he's moving his feet, but it's one thing to do it on the training pads and to take it into a fight with a generational fighter. So tell me what you guys think. Comment below, like the video, subscribe please. Once again, if you're just kind of a casual fan, I'm not trying to be condescending. This is probably not the channel for you, because this is about people who are passionate about boxing, and I'm pleasantly surprised by the fans of boxing who are paying attention to the channel. It's cool to see that guys want to understand the sweet science more than at a face value level. But there are some people in the comment section below. I don't know why you're wasting your time watching this. If you're not really passionate about the sport and you don't really care about analyzing the strategy or seeing some of the deeper aspects of the fight game, then this is not for you. But like I said, like the video, subscribe. I got lots of cool shit I can start doing, like fighter interviews with big names. I'm going to try to do some better editing and production. But first, I have to get some interest. So, yeah, guys, join the crew, man. I'm doing big things. I'm not just a fan. I'm a competitor, and I'm a trainer. And I would love to share my passion and interest for the sport. Get at me.